Was humanity free from the very beginning? Or did man become a spiritual slave from his very first breath? Does free will, even though we hear so much about it, truly exist? If the Bible seems to suggest something entirely different, in today's episode we will look deeper into the foundations of creation to understand one of the most controversial biblical truths, that the natural human being is not autonomous, but subject to the spirit of Satan. In the 10th episode of our series, we listed 10 principles of biblical hermeneutics. Today we move to the 4th principle, a principle that transforms how we view humanity, creation, and even the concept of sin. We will examine whether man was truly created perfect and spiritually free, or whether his nature was defined from the beginning by limitation, vulnerability, and dependence on two opposing spiritual orders, one an imperfect world and an imperfect man. In common religious thinking, the first human is considered an ideal being, and the world a harmonious masterpiece. But the biblical account shows something very different. In the very first verses, we see tension between darkness and light, and it is darkness that appears first. This contrast is often read as a foreshadowing of forces opposing God, present even before the full revelation of the Son and the Spirit. 2. Who was Adam? The name Adam literally means humanity. The Bible portrays him as a living soul, an earthly being who stands as the typological opposite of the last Adam. Christ, the life-giving Spirit. If Christ is the Spirit of life, his opposite becomes the spirit of the Antichrist, the spirit of Satan. In this framework, the natural human being is completely devoid of the Holy Spirit, and only God, by his own will, grants the Spirit to the chosen, transferring them from the kingdom of darkness into light. 3. The unity of body and soul, symbolic dependence. The woman given to Adam is not merely a partner, but also a symbolic image of human nature. The unity of body and soul, one flesh. Spiritually, this unity points to humanity's grounding in what is earthly, and earthly nature is associated with the order of Satan. The apostles contrast this with the spiritual unity of a believer with God, which occurs through the Holy Spirit. This is why Paul calls himself a slave of God, emphasizing that every person, knowingly or not, serves one of two spirits. For the fall, not a choice but vulnerability. The story of the fall exposes another truth. Humanity has always been vulnerable to the influence of Satan's spirit. The prohibition concerning the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, along with the activity of the serpent, shows that free will is limited in nature. The human could have chosen the fruit from the tree of life, but didn't. Why? Because his nature operates under the law of sin and death. 5. Law and free will, instruments of illusion. The law of knowing good and evil, in the hands of a person without the working of God's Spirit, becomes a tool of self-saving thinking. A human begins to judge God from the standpoint of human logic, which distorts his image. This perspective relies on human works, human judgment, and free will, elements attributed to the spiritual order of Satan. In this way, a person carries out a will that opposes the will of God. This is what the Bible calls sin, and sin becomes the visible evidence of Satan's spirit acting within the human soul. Jesus answered them, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin." John 8:34. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Galatians 4:6-7. From this perspective, man is not an autonomous being choosing between good and evil, but a participant in a spiritual reality in which either the Spirit of God acts, or the spirit of Satan. True freedom does not arise from human nature, but from the work of the Holy Spirit. If this episode made you think, be sure to leave a comment and share your perspective. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next parts of our series. And if you'd like to support the growth of this project, click like and share this video with your friends. See you in the next episode.